President-elect Biden faces a daunting slate of issues this year, starting with the pandemic and its economic fallout. And as December closed, let's not forget more than 330,000 Americans had died. More than 20 million Americans remained out of work. Businesses shuttering nationwide. Biden has struck a confident tone.
We look forward to the start of a new year, fresh with hope and possibilities for better days to come. But clear-eyed about the challenges that will not disappear overnight. We've overcome incredible challenges as a nation, and we've done it before, and we will do it again. This is the work that lies ahead of us, and I know we're up to the task.
And Biden has been assembling a cabinet to tackle the obstacles awaiting him. Many of Biden's picks will be historic first, but it hasn't been all smooth sailing for him or his team, with some progressives frustrated by his nominees. Yamiche, how do you see the cabinet rollout in the Senate proceeding in February and March?
Well, the way that I see it rolling out and proceeding is that Joe Biden and President-elect Biden is going to continue to make the case that he's assembling some of the most experienced people in their fields. There are also a lot of them alums of the Obama-Biden administration. But what you're going to hear from progressives and what he's going to be up against, and why that slim majority in the Senate is something to really keep our eye on, when, as Susan mentions, is the fact that he's going to be facing progressives who want more say in the party. A lot of the people that he's picking are seen as people who are not very progressive, who are seen as moderate Democrats or Democrats who are in the mold of the former Biden-Obama administration. And as a result, there are people, I think, that are going to be very, very concerned. Now, Biden, I should say, as he's talking about the fact that he is going to have bipartisanship, he's also making the case that he's going to be able to really bring together the Democratic Party, where you have progressives who are pushing still for more. Many people saying that President-elect Biden still was not their first choice. A lot of people still very upset about Bernie Sanders and his loss to President-elect Biden. So he's going to really be navigating a bunch of different things, including how to tackle vast issues when it comes to not only the coronavirus pandemic, but race and climate. There are some real big differences between the way that progressives see that and the way that more moderate Democrats see that in terms of how they will deal with those issues. You're also going to be seeing, I think, a real fight in the House when it comes to Nancy Pelosi. Yes, she's, of course, very, very powerfully still the Speaker of the House as of now, but there are still some incoming freshmen, progressive Democrats, who are saying they don't want to back her. So we should be watching that space to see how Joe Biden is going to have to deal with the Democratic caucus that may break with him on some key issues.
This is Biden's moment, Peter, but also McConnell's moment. Does he extend a hand to Biden on most of these nominees, or is it total political war from the start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really think that that's one of the first tests for this new Republican majority or minority, whichever they are. I think they're definitely going to try to take their shots at a few of them. Obviously, the Republicans have already signaled that they plan to oppose or at least take shots at Neera Tanden, who is the president-elect's nominee for the Office of Management and Budget. She's a Hillary Clinton team veteran who has been the president of the Center for American Progress over the last few years. Outspoken person. Her Twitter account has offended some Republicans and some Bernie Sanders supporters on the left. They may take some shots at a few others as well. Javier Becerra at the Department of Health and Human Services. It's not clear, though, that they'll go across the board and try to deny him, the rest of his team. I think a lot of these are people he's putting forward who have respect on the Republican side of the aisle, even if they're not necessarily, close friends. The question for McConnell, though, going forward is going to be, how much is he going to want to deal with Joe Biden, and how much is the noise from outside his chamber going to influence things? Just think about this for a second, about what we just saw with this COVID relief package. You saw President Trump, while still in the White House, manage to blow up a deal that McConnell had negotiated with his own administration. What's going to happen when McConnell negotiates a deal with the Biden administration and Trump is on the outside weighing in, if he decides to, perhaps even at the last minute, throwing a grenade at a deal that both sides have come together on, and then creating a real ruckus for Republicans who might have to worry about offending the base that he has such command over, or going along with the deal that McConnell has just negotiated. It's going to be a tricky situation for Mitch McConnell, whether they win these Georgia seats or not.
Susan, we all can't wait for your upcoming book on Speaker Pelosi. Which issue do you believe she would like to see the new president focus on in 2021? Is it infrastructure, a stimulus? What else?
Well, I think that she, like the president-elect, thinks that the first job has got to be getting the coronavirus under control. Nothing else can happen. Nothing else good can happen until that happens. One of her big priorities is protecting and rebuilding the Affordable Care Act. You know, she was the one who muscled that through the House during the Obama administration at a time that many people thought it was dead. And she is very interested in taking care of the Affordable Care Act. It's taken a lot of hits in the last 4 years from President Trump and the Republican Congress. She thinks it's important, and especially in the aftermath of this pandemic, to rebuild it, to give some opportunities. Just one quick comment on the point that Peter was making. You know, the safe bet with McConnell is that he does a political thing, but consider this. Which president is Mitch McConnell personally closer to? Donald Trump or Joe Biden, with whom he served so long in the Senate? And I would say he is probably personally closer to Joe Biden, and maybe that gives a glimmer of hope that he'll be less partisan when it comes to these early confirmation hearings and on legislation that will follow.
Well, I'll be keeping an eye on that. So will everybody in the reporting ranks. But to close out the show tonight, let's keep on that theme. I want to ask you all about your outlook on this new year as reporters. Let's begin with you, Yamiche. In a minute, which story will you be watching and why?
I'll be watching the coronavirus pandemic, and specifically, of course, it's the biggest story of 2020. It will be the one of 2021, I imagine. But specifically, I'm looking at how is President-elect Biden going to deal with Republicans? How is he going to navigate trying to get another COVID relief bill passed? The last one took months and months of negotiations. Biden is claiming that he's going to be able to work with Republicans. This is going to be the first big test of that promise. I think the other thing I'm looking at, I know you said one, but the other thing is related to the pandemic. How is Joe Biden going to convince more and more Americans to take the vaccine, to trust it? A lot of that's going to include trying to get African Americans who are more vulnerable to the pandemic. How is he going to convince them to get more vaccinated? That's also going to be a test of his promise to really bring this country together when it comes to racial relations and other things, dealing with those real scares that people have, those real concerns that people have of the vaccine because of the country's history with racism and healthcare. So those are the two big things, both related to the pandemic.
Peter, in about a minute or so, what are you watching?
Well, Yamiche said two stories. So quickly, I would say, first of all, watching what kind of a force President Trump is from the outside, how much Republicans are still going to defer to him because he does have a great following among the base, or are the Republican elected officials ready to move on? The second story I would say is Russia. We've had so many provocations and so many instances like this cyber attack just the last few weeks. What will Joe Biden do in terms of confronting them in the year to come?
And when you talk about the Republicans, Peter, who do you think is the front runner for 2024?
I would not hazard a guess. Absolutely not. You could not pay me to make that guess.
Susan, what are you watching?
I'm watching whether democracy has been damaged by the last 8 or 9 weeks, in the weeks since the election. We've had close elections before. We've had disputed elections before. We have never had an election in modern times in which the losing candidate refused to accept the results, when the incumbent president declined to commit himself to the peaceful transfer of power, when he launched dozens of lawsuits in battleground states and encouraged governors, state officials, and state legislators to overturn the certified results in their state. Does this become a kind of accepted political practice? And does that cost the trust of voters in the sanctity of democracy, in their faith in democracy, in their belief in the system that we have? I think we've got no bigger question to watch this next year than that.
You think the scars are even deeper now than they were in 2000, Susan?
You know, we did a USA Today end of the year poll, and we found that more than a third of Americans say Joe Biden was not legitimately elected president. That creates a huge hurdle for a president who is taking over at a time of unprecedented national crisis.
And I'm going to be watching Joe Biden. It's a story that's so obvious, the president-elect of the United States. But this is a man who was elected to the Senate in 1972, not even 30 years old, endured tragedy, has endured run after run, health issues, and now he's finally president. What can he do? What will he do? This is his moment, as we've discussed on so many programs, and we will be keeping a close eye here on Washington Week and as reporters on that important story.